Hello, and welcome to another episode of the We Build Families podcast. This is a relationship podcast that uses principles of the Word of God to aid in building the family that will be a model for godly living. And our motto here is to live like God, love like God, and have a little fun along the way. I am your host, Pastor B, and on today's episode, we're actually going to talk about and do a movie review for two relationship family type movies that were released recently on Disney Plus. The first one is Encanto, and then the second is Turning Red. We'll kind of be going back and forth between the two because I really believe that these movies, although they are both animated movies, these movies really have a lot of themes that I believe can spark great conversation between family members, between brothers and sisters, parents and children. So I thought it would be a great thing to talk about on the show today. So, right before we get started again, you can find this podcast everywhere where podcasts are available. Also, you can watch this podcast on YouTube as well. Make sure that if you are viewing us on YouTube at this moment, that you like the video, subscribe if you are new, and share it with your family or friends so that they can become a part of this community as well. And so let's get started. Let's get started. So in Canto is a movie. It was released, I believe, earlier or late 2021 or earlier this year in 2022. I'm not really sure, but it is a great movie. I kind of give an overall summary of the movie, I guess, just to start. So you have this family called the Madrigals, who are basically um, they are the breadwinners or the main family for this small town, and so this family has so many different children, but the main person or the main figure of the family is the matriarch. um, and so she actually is the one who is responsible for having the family live in this one town. She is the one responsible for finding the magic, and the magic actually is what um, provides for the town, right? So all of the children go through a ceremony to discover what their magical gifts are. And so each family member, each daughter of the matriarch, they have their own individual talent. And then the grandchildren, they go through this same um, ceremony or ritual as well. And so the main character in this particular movie is Mirabelle. Mirabelle is the grandchild and the first grandchild or the first child in this family who does not get a gift. So during the unveiling ceremony of the gift, whenever they're very young, basically you have this presentation and Maribel does not receive a gift. And so growing up where you are the one person who is different from the rest of your family, obviously that can be it can have a lot of pressure. It can be you can be an outcast without you even trying. And so a lot of times what happens is that whenever we feel like we are by ourselves, or whenever we feel isolated from our other family members one way or another, sometimes we can do um, more than we should, or we can go out of our way to feel accepted and to be like everyone else. And so I believe Maribel kind of compensates since she doesn't have a gift like everyone else. She over compensates by trying to help everyone, trying to be all things to all people, right? So she's the um, really, I believe she's the glue that holds the family together. However, her her grandmother doesn't really see it that way. From the moment that she goes and doesn't receive a gift, she doesn't see Maribel as a contributing member to the family, because so you have the older sisters of Maribel. You have Isabella, and she is the one. She's the beautiful one. She's the one with the long hair. She's the perfect one. I believe her gift is she can make these flowers come from everywhere, right? So she is responsible um, for the decorations, right? And so then you have Louisa. Louisa is the strong one. She's the one who, carries the load. She is the one that's always called upon to be the problem fixer. And so, because she has the gift of strength, then one, everyone always calls on her, and two, she feels that um, that is the only value that she has in the family, is to be the problem solver. And so a lot of times whenever you are the problem solver, um, you kind of are closed off to just being a problem solver. And so there's probably more to you, but people only see you as the problem solver. And so the uncle of Mirabelle is Bruno. And obviously, if you've seen this movie, we don't talk about Bruno. No, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. And Bruno is a misunderstood um, son of the matriarch. And essentially, what ended up happening is he can see into the future. He can see certain things happening in the future, and so he one day has this vision, um, and it's a incomplete vision, but he basically um, he tells this vision, and it basically scares the rest of the family, and so he is isolated. He's blackballed. He's basically kicked out of the family because this vision destroyed so many things at the time. He actually presented this vision during his sister's wedding, right? And so there's so many complexities with this movie. And the one thing that I liked about it so much is that from the very beginning, you can tell that Mirabelle wants desperately to make her family proud. She is proud of the family name. She is proud to be associated with all of these magical people, even though she doesn't have a traditional gift like everyone else. And so, just because someone is different, and just because you know you're the one person separate from everyone else, it doesn't mean that you don't love your family. It doesn't mean that you don't love your lineage and your heritage, but it's difficult for you to relate a lot of times. And there are people who I know like this, people who love, their close friends, but because they're so different, because they see the world in a different way, it's difficult to find people who compare to you, or people who get you, because you just see the world differently. And so Mirabelle is kind of shoehorned by herself, but that does not stop the love that she has for her daughter. I mean, I'm sorry, for her family, right? And so her parents tell her early in the movie, "You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove." How many times have um, we felt like we had to prove ourselves, especially if you are in a big family? My family really isn't super big. I'm the oldest child. I have a younger sister, so I wonder if she ever felt that she had something to prove to in comparison to me. I don't know. But that's one of the first messages in this movie is that you have nothing to prove. You are beautiful, you are unique by yourself. You don't need to have a gift to make you special, to make you worthy of love or worthy of attention. But I'm sure that that is a dichotomy that Maribel has been living with ever since she was like very, very young, and she is living, knowing that she doesn't have a gift, but sees all of her brothers and sisters and her uncles and aunts with all of these amazing abilities, and yet she feels, that she's missing out, right? And so, we all have um, our lives and our wishes and our dreams and our goals, and I believe uh, um, with the matriarch, I believe she had plans and goals as well for all of her children and all of her grandchildren. And so um, whenever Mirabelle doesn't receive her magic and doesn't receive her gift, she's disappointed because the mother has identified that the only value that this family has to the community and to each other is through its magic and it's through the gifting. And what happens when you don't get the gifting? What happens whenever you're not as talented? What happens when everybody else in your family can sing and you can't, right? What happens when the entire community knows that that you come from a line of great ball players. Something I think was is interesting, as a quick tangent. So I think about Michael Jordan's son. Um, he grew up obviously seeing that his dad was the greatest ball player in the world. And I wonder how much pressure that is living under that shadow. He ended up going to, like, I think, Central Florida, the University of Central Florida, and he played college ball. And I wonder if that's something that he really wanted to do, or if because his dad was his dad, that he had to at least try, right? I think it's probably something similar to Bronny, right? Bronny James, the son of LeBron James, right? I believe that Bronny loves the game, but I wonder, was there ever a point where he didn't, right? Where he just wanted to kind of be and do his own thing, but yet the pressure of society sometimes, um, you cave into, um, continuing the legacy of your father, continuing the legacy of your parents or your family name, and it takes courage to go outside of legendary lineage where everybody in your family is known for this. So if you feel pressured to uphold the name, or to um, you know be someone because everybody else in your family has been that person, it takes courage to do that. I remember that my grandfather was a carpenter, and my dad is a master carpenter, right? And so I remember growing up, my dad would, he would have me um, go with him and be his right hand, and help him with, um, you know, applying. Um, like borders around homes, nailing stuff. I was the assistant, I think, from the time I was like 7. From the time I was 7, really, up until consistently up until I was like 16 or 17. I was always helping him, like in the summers and things like that. And so I remember telling my dad, maybe around the age of 14 or so, I said, "Dad, I don't want to be a carpenter." And I think that kinda hurt him a little bit because, it was the Mitchell family name. It was something that we always did. Somebody was a carpenter, somebody was handy. And I just realized that I wasn't interested, and I wasn't passionate about it, you know. Um, some of those traits fell to me just because of nature and stuff. But as far as the passion to make it um my own and to really do it no matter how the time of day, how much I got paid, that was never really my thing. And so, pretty early on, I was just like, Dad, I love you. I'll help you, when I can, but I'm not going to do this my whole life. And so I believe it was just me understanding that I just wanted to do something different. And it's hard, as children, because we have the desire not to let our parents down, but also we know that, or sometimes we know that what our families have done, we don't really want to do. Um, and so, it's important that we understand that we can be valuable in our own skin, that we can be um, comfortable being ourselves, that we can go through a journey of self discovery in a different way. We don't have to take the same traits and the same or we don't have to go the same path that our forefathers did. It doesn't mean that the way they took is wrong. It's just a different way. It's just our own individual route into finding who we are. Now, one of the things as the movie kind of continues is that everyone, all of the children were uncomfortable, even with the gifts that they received, because there was so much pressure from the matriarch to use your gifts for others, and you were here on earth for this one reason. um, it was difficult to have a conversation. I think from the grandchildren's point of view, it was difficult to have a conversation with the matriarch to say, "Hey, I'm not feeling this today," or "Hey, I really am tired." Right? One of the my favorite song from the movie is "Surface Pressure." It is Luisa's song, and basically, she's basically saying that, you know, what what happens if I don't carry the load? Like I feel this pressure because I am the strong one. I'm expected to carry everything. If I can't carry everything, then the family could fall apart. Everybody's counting on me, um, but I would love to be free from this pressure. I would love to have some release, some relief, a moment to where I don't always have to be the strong one. Can I just be me? Can I just be a regular person? And I felt that so strongly because that is how um, a lot of times we kind of suffer in silence because we go through the routines and we go through, especially if we're called upon to do something, um, we're not expected to be tired, especially if it comes easy to us. We are expected to be on point, to always know the right answer, to always be available, to always be counted upon to carry our load. And there are times when the load is too heavy, But I think the problem is families have to create a space to where you can voice your opinion and it not turn into um, a a shouting match, or you don't listen to what the person has to say, right? And I think that is the biggest thing, because um, even Isabella, she says that I'm so tired of being perfect. Everybody expects me to be perfect. She's the beautiful one. She's the one who is being engaged with another, or being arranged to be married with another gentleman in the community, and she can't say no. In her mind, she's like, I can't say no because everybody expects me to marry this guy, but I don't really like him, right? And it's crazy that we can set up expectations, or families can set up certain looks and facades and expectations that they want the community to think that they are, and really inside they're struggling to maintain, they're struggling to keep their inner turmoil inside them, right? And so that is something that we have to be able to address. Like, we're often afraid to confess how we're feeling, thinking that everything is going to come tumbling down. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it does, because maybe we've constructed a false life. And the only way to really live correctly and to live honestly is to tear down the the falseness, right? But sometimes confession, no matter how difficult, can bring clarity and can kick off the journey toward healing and self discovery. So don't be afraid to confess how you're truly feeling. Okay. Um, and so, a couple of more points about this one, because I really want to go to Turning Red, because that movie is it's really good. So one more thing though about Encanto. So Bruno, he because he loves his family so much, although he was blackballed and although he was essentially kicked out as like the black sheep of the family, he never left the family. He never left the house. Like, he lived inside the walls with the rats and stuff, right? And the touching part about it is that he even set up his plate and his space at the family table right on the opposite wall of where the family would meet in the kitchen or in the dining area to eat. So he could see through a slit in the wall what everybody was saying during the family meeting, and so he essentially um, made it a point to be at that location every single time that there was a family meeting. And I thought that was really cool, because, like I mentioned earlier, no matter sometimes how we're treated by our families, how we're kicked out of families due to misunderstandings. At our like genuine heart, we love our families, right? But it's just for some of them, it's difficult for them to overcome or to live beyond a misunderstanding, or to live beyond the disappointment. And eventually, what ends up happening is that Mirabelle is the one person that can see that things are shifting, that things are changing. The house is about to fall apart, and the magic is about to leave. And she wants to tell her family this, but the matriarch basically thinks that because she doesn't have any powers or any magical abilities, that she's been jealous this entire time, and that she's been butting in to the family affairs, when really all she's been trying to do is to serve the family, to love the family. And it's when Mirabelle admits to the matriarch you're the reason why this is happening because you're holding on so tight and you're gripping and you're um, suffocating the family because of your rigid expectations, right? And so, as parents, as you know, we have to make sure that we don't hold too tight to what we want, that we allow people to be themselves or to discover who they are. Because just because I'm on a journey of self discovery, it doesn't mean that I'm going to leave you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to all of a sudden become somebody who thinks that they're better than the next person. But a lot of times that's kind of what what some family members believe is that if I expose you to this, you're going to be a completely different person, and that isn't always the case. All right. So next movie is Turning Red. Turning Red has some similar um, ideals, um, and but it all again centers around parenthood and the dynamic between children and parents, children and grandparents. And in this case, it is between the child, Mei Lee, and her mother. And so Mei Lee comes from a Asian family, Chinese family, where they have a spiritual connection to red pandas. And so this particular connection is passed down through the ladies of each generation. And so there's basically an inner red panda inside of them. And as long as they keep their emotions in check, this red panda stays subdued and stays hidden. But the moment that they become overly emotional, this red panda comes out, and it can be a dangerous situation. And so there's like these emblems that all of the ladies wear to basically keep their inner panda subdued, right? And so Mei Lee is growing up under this history, but she doesn't really, she isn't told about the red panda history at first. And I thought that the introduction to this movie was really, really interesting. Um, they're taught to honor your parents, and that's even scripture, right? Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother. And so I was thinking, I was like, what does it mean to honor your parents? What does that mean? What does it look like? Um, because I believe respect, I believe love, I believe obedience. All of these things factor into honoring your parents. But the one thing also that she says at the beginning of the movie, when it comes to honoring your parents, it says if you take it too far, you forget to honor yourself. And I thought it was interesting that. Is there a time when you can honor your parents too much? And what I think the thought process is, what I think they're trying to get to, is that if you are in a situation where your parents um, are suffocating your journey of self discovery, then it can be a bit of a precarious situation. And I think that's the journey of Mei Lee. So she's growing up through her adolescent years, and the story is it finds we find ourselves in the story now where she's 13, right? So she's entering these teenage years, and she has this great personality. I mean, I remember when I was 13, I was nowhere near um nowhere near as self-aware as she was. Had a lot of insecurities when I was 13. But um although she although she's self-aware, she's also um a normal teenager. So she has crushes on boys. She um, is confident in her math skills, but also um, she has this core group of friends. Um, but she's so tied to honoring her parents that a lot of times, whenever the her friends want to do one thing, she doesn't see fun like the other kids see fun because she's been grown, she's been groomed under the leadership and tutelage of her mother, right? Um, and I want to say something about friendship. This movie does a really great job of highlighting the importance of friendship, especially obviously whenever you're growing up. Friends are everything, right? Um, Friends are the key to aiding in discovering who you are. Um, what I liked as well is that there were all of the friends were different. You had the one girl who was who never changed her facial expressions at all, but she was down to do whatever, right? You had the one who was like the super compassionate one that always wanted Amelie to know that she was loved, to know that you don't have to hide this panda from us. We accept you as you are. And then you had the one who was just the firecracker of the bunch who would always, be down to stand up for her friends, right? And so, great friends participate in the journey. They are the ones that you can lean on, the ones that will always um, give up their shoulder for you to cry on, right? And so the friendship aspect of this movie was really really dope. And so the the concepts I believe that are kind of key here in this movie is that you don't always have to follow in the same footsteps of your parents, but also you don't have to be afraid to kind of stand up for yourself. There are plenty of times in this movie where she um, had the opportunity to um, stand up for herself as far as her interest in boys, as far as her desire to go see the boy band. But because she didn't want to let her parent or her mother down and didn't want to disrupt the family dynamic, she often lied to her mom about her true feelings and her true intentions. And those of us who grew up with strict parents, we've all done that. We've all, not been so quick to tell how we truly felt about things. Um, Always feeling embarrassed. Oh God, let me say this: the fact that um, the fact that the Melee, excuse me, um, quickly understood that her going back and forth between the red panda and her regular state was tied to her emotions, but yet she didn't tell her mom that, created a uncomfortable situation that because she wasn't honest up front, the mom thought that the young lady was starting her period for the first time. And so now, because of this, her mom shows up everywhere, showed up at the child's school, um, with pads and embarrassed the crap out of her. And I was just like, "Oh my god." Her mom was doing the absolute most. And I believe that the reason why um the reason why Melee didn't say anything is that she was so afraid. Well, actually, the first time that she finds the journals with her drawing the picture of her crush that worked at the store, her mom automatically assumes that um, the outside influences are infecting her daughter. Right? She has this high pristine view of her daughter. Um, that prevents her from being a teenager. And so that part I thought was interesting because I mean again I grew up with strict parents as well, um, and I don't think it really got that bad, but it definitely was something that it was interesting, man, trying to navigate between, hey, I don't want to, let my parents down. I really don't want to hear them fuss. So I'm just not going to, tell them the truth, or I'm just not going to go and do what I really, really want to do. Um, and so, from the moment that she releases this panda and her four friends accept her, or three friends actually, accept her for who she is, Melee decides that I'm okay with this. And then when other people decide and like this inner beast or this inner person that she's been trying to hide, she becomes more comfortable in both worlds. And it isn't until she decides to stand up for herself and say, "Mom, I'm sorry, I lied. I like boys. I like to dance. I like, I like this boy band, um, and this is who I am." um, that that's when obviously her mom loses it because her mom has been trying to protect um, her daughter from destroying her family relationship the way she did with her mom. And a lot of times, most parents who are strict, um, especially a loving strict parent is coming from a good place, but it's the trauma that they endured, and they never really worked through the trauma whenever they were growing up, and so they don't really know how to work through any um, similar warning signs that their children may possess, right? Um, and so um, the dynamic between parent child relationships in both of these movies I thought were very, very interesting. How um, parents can be overzealous sometimes in their protection. And I'm not a true parent. I don't have kids of my own. I have a godchild, but I don't have children of my own. But I understand that there's a fine line between protecting your kids and allowing them to find themselves. I know that it's a fine line, but I hope and pray that um, that you're able to kind of allow children to make some mistakes, right? To allow your kids to to discover who they are. And then if they have questions, to create an environment where questions can be asked without um, judgment. And it seems like the world is going to end just because they asked you something that you weren't expecting. Because um, in this day and age, we have to have homes, I believe, that are open for dialogue because children are exposed to way more than we were whenever we were kids. And so, because of that, they're going to have more questions. Um, they're going to have more of a um, they're not going to know what to do. All right. So um, yeah, that's the end of today's episode. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode today, let's make sure that you like this episode. Give us a 5-star rating and good pods, or also comment in the video as well how you enjoyed it. So until next time, thank you guys so much and enjoy the rest.